Think you know everything about the DJI Neo? Well, there are some things that you might not know about. Some are features, and some might just save you from the notorious flyaway issue that the DJI Neo has gained a little bit of a reputation for. We'll explore some of the contradictions that DJI use to cover their bottom, and also a couple of plain weird bits in the manual. And I've saved the best one until last in a vain attempt to get you to watch to the end of the video. Just be thankful there isn't a bonus tip. Why do people do that? I've been flying drones and talking about it on YouTube for a few years now, and I have to say that the DJI Neo ranks up there as one of my favourite drones. It's cheap, it's pretty indestructible, can be used when you're out and about for a quick selfie without a controller, as a half-decent camera drone, or even for full-on manual FPV flight. All in all, you can use 6 different pieces of hardware to control it. Sometimes just using your hand is pretty magical.
Nope.
When you get a new gadget, are you the type of person that just opens up the box, tosses the instructions out and gets to know everything through discovery and experimentation? Or are you the type that will studiously read the manual from cover to cover in your special reading room, sometimes even before getting the gadget if it can be downloaded? The thing is, with drones, it's basically a legal requirement to have read the entire manual before flying, at least according to the CAA in the UK. But sometimes a cursory glance seems sufficient, especially if you've flown drones before, right? By the way, I wouldn't recommend reading on the toilet. It can cause certain issues, especially for people of a certain age, if you know what I mean. I won't go into too much detail, but it's like a car crash.
Too much information.
So here are some top tips that I got after properly reading the manual. Right, bear with me on this one, but have you ever been trying to control your Neo using your phone in the manual mode? I was having terrible problems pressing on all of these points, and I just felt like the drone didn't accept simultaneous inputs. See these circles here? They're virtual joysticks. Put your fingers on them and drag them like control sticks, and the control is way smoother. Turn your phone landscape and it gets even better. Okay, so you knew about that one? Honestly, it does get better from here. So how does this grab you? If you've got the RCN3 or RC2 controllers, you can assign one of the custom buttons to get the drone to continue flying in the same direction, angle and pitch by pressing it and letting go of the controls. Simply go into the controls, down to the button customization, assign one of those buttons to cruise control. On the RC2, I use the C2 button, and you can use the FN button on the RCN3. FN is short for function, by the way, which is FG, useful to know. Wait a minute. Then when flying, as long as the drone is moving, you can press that function button and the drone will continue flying in that direction without you having to keep your fingers on the control sticks. Why is this useful? Well, besides getting nice smooth footage for a shot without your twitchy fingers messing it up, you can also do hyperlapses, which I explained how to do in this video here. I don't have any B-roll for this bit, but to keep you engaged, there will be a random clip at some point in this section. Did you know that the batteries for the DJI Neo have their own firmware? No, neither did I, until I did a firmware update and changed the batteries. Then it asked me to do another firmware update. It does actually tell you about this in the manual. I guess I was just a bit distracted at that point. Anyway, when you do get a firmware update, either via your phone or via your RC controller, and you have more than one battery, load in your other batteries and check again just in case. It quite plainly says in the manual on page 23, do not fly over water. DJI go to great lengths in other parts of the manual to discourage you from doing this, and even mentions puddles at one point, a tricky thing to avoid if you live in the UK like me. The reason for this is that the downward sensors need a textured environment to work properly, and water, plain, highly reflective surfaces and stuff like that can really confuse those sensors. DJI do kind of contradict themselves on this though, in this introductory video for the DJI Neo. The other thing is that if the drone does suffer from loss of GPS position or has a critically low battery, it will automatically land. which isn't good over water, obviously. Plenty of people have said that you can fly over water as long as you keep about 10 meters above it. And I've done it once or twice myself with the DJI Flip, which is a very similar drone. But don't come crying to me if you do that and you lose your aircraft. In hands-free mode or using your phone, we all know that you can take short clips of video such as a droney, spotlight, circle, boomerang, etc. But I wanted to test something out. I'm not sure it's actually in the manual. If you do a circle or a helix or a boomerang and move while the DJI Neo is taking its shot, the camera stays pointing at you, which can be quite good for getting slightly different types of shots, rather than just standing there dramatically pretending not to look at the camera or to just mug off at the camera. Just remember that it does return and hover in its original takeoff point. Mug off. I had a comment on one of my videos the other day that kind of kicked off the process of rereading the manual. I want to get the Neo, but I'm too scared because it will just fly off like people are saying. Now, it's true there have been odd instances of the DJI Neo going a bit mental sometimes. Actually, my daughter told me not to use that word. Of it going a bit cray-cray and suddenly flying off without any way to stop it. Sometimes this may be due to user error, sometimes it could be a defective drone, but these are the things you can do to absolutely minimize the risk of it happening. Firstly, make sure that you have sufficient satellites detected before you take off. Seems that DJI think about 26 is right, but if using a controller, just make sure that the satellite's icon is an orange or red. If flying without a controller, make sure that the status light on the top of the drone is blinking green. Next, don't be moving while taking off. This will just confuse the drone and it's liable to drift after takeoff. Make sure you're not near any buildings, big metal objects, or stuff that could interfere with the compass in the drone. If your previous flight involved a TURD, totally unplanned rapid descent, make sure you recalibrate your IMU and compass, even if you don't have a warning to do so. In fact, doing this as a matter of course anyway is quite a good idea before each flight session. And one tip with the IMU calibration. At one point it asks you to stand the drone on its side, which with many drones like the DJI Mini 4 Pro is easy, but it's impossible to do with the Neo. So simply just prop it up against something when you're doing that. So simply prop it up as close to 90 degrees as possible so that it can stand vertically on its side. You may be able to do this by holding it, but I've found that the slightest movement whilst doing this could cause the calibration to fail. Now, this doesn't guarantee you won't have a flyaway, but will greatly reduce the risk of one. Oh, and about not flying near buildings and large metal objects. Here's a quick clip from the DJI promotional video again. If you put the drone into spotlight mode and select photo rather than video, set it flying, then put your phone away and hold a pose for 3 seconds, DJI Neo will automatically take a photo of you. Move and then hold a pose again and it will do it again. Which is actually kind of cool. It saves you handing your phone to someone to take a photo of you and they cut your feet off or something. Or even worse, just run off with your phone. This is a lovely selection of photos that I took of myself. I call this the "Why Don't You Get a Life" collection. So when you get a new drone, do read the manual, it is definitely worth doing. If you've made it this far and have found any of this useful, please don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're not already one of the awesome people that subscribe to the channel, then bag yourself some extra awesome points by clicking on the subscribe button. Thanks. Now watch this. Or this. Bye. Can't wait till I'm back up on my feet.